My childhood was the best. It really was. Down from having three brothers and an overall great family, I just remember having the best time as a kid. Now, that is to say, three brothers can bring a bit of chaos to your life, but it was the good kind of chaos. Every day we would roll out into town and just see what the whole thing was about and all that, but obviously over time we went to our separate ways and just did our own things in our lives. As of now, I'm currently working at an office job and everything's going pretty well. But there's one thing that I couldn't shake. It was about a next door neighbor. You see, I was never one to really be skeptical. As a matter of fact, I was always the outgoing type. I tended to talk to a lot of people and get a lot of friends. Now, one day, I was mainly just minding my own business and talking to some friends outside when I got news of a new neighbor coming to town. It was some old man who we never really knew, and I just remember throughout the time him living in the whole street that he always kept to himself and was pretty quiet. No one really talked to him, aside from the occasional chat, but he was never really there. He was never at neighborhood gatherings or anything like that. He just tended to only go outside for either getting stuff like food and water or something like that, or occasionally going outside to work on his garden. But for the most part, he was always stuck inside, just being himself. A grumpy old man that, by the looks of things, never really cared for anyone or anything. He did have a pet cat, but that goes without saying that we never really saw the damn thing, considering it always went off somewhere. Now I think about it, I don't know if he was lonely or depressed, but oh well, who am I to really question that, I guess. What I do remember is one time where he actually did go outside for a bit. It's a bit of a faint memory, but I remember him going up to where the shops were and just staying out the house for a bit. He was gone for about an hour or so when he came back. Now, when he came back, he had a more expressionless face than he ever had before, but with a slight hint of anger on it. I figured that maybe he just had a bad day, but knowing I was the type of person to cheer up a guy with a bad mood, I decided to go over to him and talk to him. As I only just got to him and was about to say hi, he immediately just ignored me and went straight for his door. And then he just locked himself in the house, as he always would. Now, I was a bit angry, considering the fact that he didn't talk to me, and that was a bit rude. But I wasn't going to make a fuss about it. It was eventually time to go in and get settled in for bed. But I was curious. I didn't know what the deal with this old man was and why he was so grumpy all the time. So, I decided to do a bit of research. I was originally going to check out the old man and see what he does, and to my surprise, he was out in the garden. Now, at first I didn't really know what he was doing in the garden, considering he was mainly just tending to the plants or something like that. But the plants were oddly proportioned in a way that they were hiding something. I didn't know what they were hiding, but as I said, I didn't really question that. Though, looking back on it now, I really wish I had. I eventually snuck over to where his window was, just to see what he did next. And he sat over on his chair, just watching the TV. Pretty normal impression at first, didn't think much of that. When he suddenly got up, and what looked like he had some bloody hand and a bandage over it. I figured that maybe he cut himself or something like that. But why would he have a bandage for his entire arm? I didn't know. He eventually went back out to his garden though, which meant I would have to get a better look, so I actually went out to my garden and grabbed a stool and carefully monitored him, just to keep an eye on him and see what he was doing. He then grabbed a shovel and started to dig. Now, I didn't know what this was about. I just thought that maybe he was digging something important, like a plot. But he then went back into his house and grabbed something. It was carried in a long sack, which could probably cover anything. But it was sloppy, like a rag doll. He then immediately dumped the thing in there and started to bury it. A couple of weird things happened after that. One of the other neighbours, called Mr. Richards, didn't seem to answer anyone's calls to see if he was okay or anything like that, and he never came out of his house. People went in to investigate, and I remember seeing the police car there at one point, but they couldn't find the body or anything like that. It was only a couple of days later when I was just minding my own business, walking around the street, when the old man came out of his house with a sort of pleased expression on his face, and he was smiling. Now, being the kind person I was, I decided to smile back at him, but when I did, he gave a grin that indicated that he was not friendly, and that he just wanted him to leave me alone. Now, I didn't want to leave him alone because I wanted to see if this guy was happy, and who knows, maybe actually make another friend. But that wasn't going to happen because his expression quickly turned to anger, and I did not like that face. So I just went back into my house and forgot about that encounter. However, it didn't take long. Around a couple of minutes later, when another neighbour of ours, which still can't remember the name of, disappeared. As a matter of fact, the entire family disappeared, and there was not even a trace of anyone being there. It was like they left in a hurry, as a matter of fact. Now, one of my best friends lived there, and his name was Sam. He was a great kid, and I was kind of saddened. No one knew where they went, and the police showed up a couple of times to see if they could catch a hold of the person that may have done it. Now, no one suspected anything. As a matter of fact, they didn't suspect even someone could have broken in and possibly murdered them, because it looked like that they left in a hurry. But on this night was the night that I actually learned the truth. I woke up with a fright, considering I just had a bit of a nightmare, and I decided to calm my stress by looking out at the morning rising above. It wasn't quite morning, but I could see that it was roughly beginning to get a little bit lighter outside, and it was raining. When I managed to, out the corner of my eye, catch the old man, what looked like burying more sheets of something in the background, in his garden, I decided to just move my head a little bit closer so I could get a better close-up of what he was doing. And I saw an arm of a child slip out of one of the bags, and I wanted to just question what that was and immediately ask him, the old man, what it was. But I didn't want to draw any attention to me, so I just watched. And as the man tried to put the arm back in the bag, my friend fell out of that bag. I didn't know what to do, and I was scared for my friend, so I did the only thing that I could do. I went to the phone and called the police. And it turns out that old man was suspected of murder and taken away. Now, I don't know what resides with the old man today, but I'm glad that I called the police. I just don't understand why no one suspected that old man. I mean, wasn't he at least a little bit suspicious? Oh well.